All right, I still have with me my special guest in the studio, Lord Meghna Desai, to walk us through the import and implications of this historic Ayodhya verdict. Lord Meghna Desai, we've been speaking since early morning on the import of this verdict, but talking about politics on the ground. Do you think this judgment will change the narrative going forward, the discourse in Indian politics, from communal politics or communal overtones to one based purely on development or development-centered politics?
I think so. I think, in a sense, this was a little thorn in the side or nagging worry that what will happen. Now, that has been settled, I think, as amicably as is possible. Of course, there will be people dissatisfied. Some people would have wanted more. But it's been settled, and it has been settled legally, peacefully, without any riots, and nobody forced the hands of the court, nothing like that. So now one can move on to issues of development, building a welfare state, and basically advancing India together. And it would also count as a great plus for BJP, because it happened on its watch, when it had enough of a majority to do anything it liked. And they didn't.
Sure.
They behaved in a very disciplined way and let the Supreme Court decide, and also tribute to the Supreme Court that they worked around the clock because the Chief Justice was retiring. They had to get it done under his regime, as it were. And I think everybody has come out very well out of this. And I hope that this will also settle in the parivar, the angst about other temples and all that. Let's forget about all that. Let's start working on the economy.
Sure. All right, joining me live at this special broadcast is Pinky Anand, Additional Solicitor General. Pinky Anand, thank you for joining us on Wion Lisbon. Appreciate it. First up, your thoughts on this historic Ayodhya verdict. What kind of precedent might this set going forward?
I think it's been one of the most historic judgments which has put to rest a controversy that has been plaguing the nation at all levels for decades and almost centuries. So I think that is the first hallmark of the rule of law, that you put an end to disputes which are arising out of issues which should be put to rest. And that is the primary thing that comes across with the judgment. The second part that I think which is very interesting, in fact, is that of course it's a very lengthy judgment, but it has taken into account all the features that concern the issue and come to a legal finding and decided the validity and legality of actions. And more than that, it has actually ensured that peace and comity is restored between all communities and in the nation, to ensure that everybody has some kind of reparation which needs to be there for the system.
Pinky Anand, you spoke about the text of the judgment, but reading between the words, or between the sentences, so to speak, the judgment says that there is no proof that a temple was destroyed to build a mosque, number one. At the same time, the judgment says that the demolition of the Babri Mosque in '92 was illegal. So in essence, on balance, would you say that this judgment was balanced and fair?
Very, very balanced. I think the entire presumption and the entire basis of the judgment takes from the Archaeological Survey of India, which says there was a structure, and that structure is the structure on which the masjid was built, one. And secondly, while considering what happened in '92, the court gives an entire basis for awarding an alternate land to people who have been there. Now, please understand one more thing, which I must make very clear, that simply because you have been there for a period of time doesn't give you any rights. So if there were pre-existing rights, they shouldn't have been taken over in any manner. But be that as it may, the court, on a finding of 1992, finds indeed that there should be an alternate allotment of land, and ensures that the practice which would be there on the process in 1992 is restored in another place. So I think it's a very, very balanced approach which takes into consideration all kinds of features which should have been kept in mind.
Right, that brings me to my next question. The only contrarian opinion has come from the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, represented by Zafar Yab Jilani. Now, Gilani said that he is dissatisfied with some findings of the judgment. He says it's not satisfactory and that the judgment was not as per their expectations. Now, on the other hand, I was talking to Justice R.S. Sodhi this morning, and he says that there are two legal remedies available to the so-called aggrieved parties. One, a review petition, and two, a curative petition. But he cautions that in his estimation, this is it. The aggrieved parties would do well not to push it and accept this verdict because it's not going to change materially going forward as well. So where do you stand on this issue, Pinky Anand?
I mean, the point is that anybody who's aggrieved definitely has certain rights available in law, which is to file a review against the impugned judgment, and on dissatisfaction with review, if any order, they can go to a curative petition. These are the remedies that our law provides. But at the same time, when you say that somebody is dissatisfied, I have almost never seen a situation where somebody or the other, and particularly there are groups in this situation, would be fully satisfied with the judgment. So when it is said that there is only partial dissatisfaction with some of the findings, it's very heartening to note that at least some part only is objected and the rest appears to be within the realm of balancing act that the Supreme Court has done. So as I said, you can go in review, but ultimately what are the chances of a review? We all know that the chances of a review would be bleak, considering there is a reasoned and a balanced judgment, and of course a very lengthy judgment which takes into account the Constitution bench. However, it's open for the parties if they want to. We would suggest and we would think that once a dispute has been put to rest after so many agitations and so many issues and so many days and days lengthy of arguments, there should be a quietus to the entire issue and we should take the way forward. And finally, Pinky Anand, given the balanced verdict and the balanced reactions coming in, would you say that this brings out the best in Indian democracy if you look at the legislature, the executive and the judiciary? I think the best credit goes to the people of this country. And I think the best credit goes to the Indian ethos. I think in the circumstances, it's very, very heartening to note that there has been peace and tranquility which has been maintained with this judgment. There were a number of apprehensions, a number of steps had been taken to prevent if there would be any untoward incident. But happily enough, everybody has taken a very positive view of the judgment. And of course, if there are any legal remedies that anybody wishes to avail, that's quite a different matter. But hats off to the Indian people, hats off to us who have taken this judgment the way we have. I think this paves a way for a better India in all senses. Indeed. And Lord Meghna Desai, very quickly, Pinky Anand says this augurs well for Indian democracy and Indian people. You think this is a watershed moment in Indian polity? Absolutely. I think from now on we can forget about that somewhat sorry episode in the history of India, and let's move on and let's build this new nation together. All right, on that note, I want to thank Pinky Anand for joining us on this special broadcast. Appreciate it. Right, so the historic judgment from the Apex Court today on the disputed Ayodhya land. Let's have a look at the first reactions coming in after the judgment.
देखिए, ऐसा है ना कि हम इससे पहले भी कहते हैं कोर्ट ने जो भी कहा है वो ठीक कहा है, हम उसका सम्मान करते हैं। ये जिम्मेदारी सरकार की, हम वो कहाँ देती है कहाँ नहीं देती है, क्योंकि हम कोर्ट का सम्मान करते हैं, पहले भी करते थे, आज भी करते हैं। हमें चाहते हैं ये मसला हिंदुस्तान का बहुत अहम था, वो आज खत्म हो गया।
The Indian National Congress respects the verdict of the Supreme Court in the Ayodhya case. We appeal to all the parties concerned and to all communities to abide by the secular values and the spirit of fraternity enshrined in our Constitution and to maintain peace and harmony.